What's up, everybody? This is Tiana from Straight from the Crates. Today we are going deep. Real deep. We're piggybacking off of the review about the miseducation of Lauryn Hill. So, those of you who did watch the video, you know a little bit about what we're going to be discussing on this episode. So, we're talking about something people whisper about but rarely unpack, which is diaspora tensions, the so called diaspora wars, the friction between African Americans and Africans from the continent, the side eyes, the misunderstandings, the miseducation, the accusations. And I want to explore a theory, not as absolute truth, not as blame, but as a historical question worth examining. Because if we're going to talk about pain, we have to talk about origins. And I'm big on starting a story from the beginning. I don't like starting from the middle or starting in present. We need to know where everything's coming from. So that's what I'm going to try to do in this episode of Straight from the Crate. So a lot of people frame the tension like this: they look down on us because of colonialism. They were brainwashed by the Europeans. They were divided by outside forces. And yes, colonialism played a massive role in shaping modern identity politics across Africa and the diaspora. But what if some of these fractures are older than that? I want us to rewind back to a time, well, so far, I mean, a long time ago. The which is the Mali Empire, the Songhai Empire, centers of power like Timbuktu. These were hubs of scholarship, trade, wealth, Islamic learning. These were sophisticated states, bureaucracies, trade networks, political hierarchies. And like every major empire in history, Rome, China, the Ottomans, they had their internal class systems, they had ethnic hierarchies, they had war captives, they even had enslaved people. Slavery in Africa existed before Europeans arrived. It wasn't race based like the way chattel slavery in America became, but it did involve power, conquest, status, and us versus them mentalities. So here's the uncomfortable question: if certain groups were seen as politically weaker, less centralized, less modern in the eyes of the dominant empires, did that make it easier to justify trading them? Not because of racial self hate, but because of power and politics. Empires historically prioritized survival and dominance over solidarity. When Europeans arrived looking to buy captives, they didn't invent warfare between African states. They exploited existing rivalries. They inserted themselves into systems that were already there and then industrialized the horror. That does not excuse the trade. It doesn't flatten the brutality. And it absolutely doesn't mean Africans sold their own in some simplistic betrayal narrative. It means power structures make brutal decisions. But here's the kicker: the same coastal kingdom and elites who profited from European trade eventually found themselves destabilized, undermined, colonized, and partitioned. The system that they participated in swallowed them too. By the late 1800s, nearly the entire continent was under European control. So if there was ever a belief that proximity to European trade meant protection or advantage, history proved otherwise. Nobody escaped. And that's where this conversation gets emotional, because today, centuries later, you still see the tension. You left us. You sold us. You forgot about us. You don't understand us. You're not African. You're not black enough. But maybe what we're actually dealing with isn't ancient hatred. Maybe we're dealing with layered trauma. Pre-colonial rivalries, colonial manipulation, divide and conquer strategies, post-colonial identity crises, and the unique psychological damage of American chattel slavery. These are different wounds, different timelines, different narratives, but the same ancestry. When we reduce it to they hate us or we betrayed them, we oversimplify thousands of years of complex political history. Empires did what empires do. They calculated power. They protected their interests. They made moral compromises. And eventually, many paid for it. So the real question isn't who started it. The real question is why are we still carrying it? If the lesson of history is anything, its division makes populations easier to control. It always has and it always will. Maybe instead of asking someone, didn't why didn't you see the value in us centuries ago? Why won't we ask, how can we see the value in each other now? This isn't about blame. This isn't about clarity. History is messy. Pain is inherited, but awareness gives us choice. Drop your thoughts below respectfully. This is straight from the crates. Maybe we can go deeper into how colonial borders and religion intensified these fractures. Maybe not, but I want us to have a great dialogue about this. Always remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And here on Straight from the Crates, we do not dodge the hard conversations. We press play. Peace.